Ben Wells, good to see you, man.
You too, man. Thank you.
Hey, by the way, congratulations on the Human Condition, man. I mean, you picked a rough time to release a new album.
Yeah, you know, you gotta love it. Thank you for saying that. We recorded that album in March last year, right at the start of all the mess, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having conversations. We were having conversations with our label and management while we were recording the album about, okay, wait. So even though we're recording this now, are we going to put it out this year? It's like, do we wait? But at that point in March, it was still so new and fresh. It was like, well, how do we know when this is all over with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we made the decision to let's stick with our plan, which was to release it in October of last year. And I'm glad we did, because it gave us something to look forward to, you know, in the middle of all this other negativity and crisis. And our fans, I think, appreciated it too, because it was like, it gave them something to look forward to. You know?
Absolutely.
Something new. While you can't go out and see shows and do whatever you want to do, there was at least something to be somewhat excited about.
Now, let me ask you, the song Again, has the success of that particular track here in the United States surprised you guys in Blackstone Cherry at all?
Oh, immensely.
Yeah.
Immensely. Like we didn't, I mean, especially because it was a song that we didn't even, when we went in the studio to record, we had a batch of songs. We said, okay, here's our songs we're recording, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Label had already heard some of the demos, blah, blah, everybody was happy. And then we get in the studio, and Again kind of came out of nowhere, really. The guitar riff came, and we had a melody, and Chris started singing a melody, and we wrote it literally right there on the spot. And it was literally one of those things, we wrote it in an evening, and we said, okay, let's track this thing. Let's see what happens. And
Wow.
Then it became the first single. And just to see the reaction it's got has just been so overwhelming. You know, we had no idea. We knew it was a great song, and we loved the song, but I think it's just really caught on. And
Mm-hmm.
To see where it's gotten so far, it's just been incredibly awesome. And we're very, very appreciative of all the support.
It's almost like this catch-22 thing, right? One of the biggest songs yet of the band's career here in the States, and you really can't go out to tour and support it because of COVID. Son of a gun.
We've always said that is the luck of Blackstone Cherry. If I've ever seen it play out in my life, it is that, you know.
Yeah. You know, you guys have got a massive following over in Europe, but still really haven't become an arena-based rock band here in your home country. Why do you think that is, man? I mean, did you guys just spend a hell of a lot of time? I mean, I know you were out with Nickelback and did some big tours over in Europe early on in your career, or is there something else going on there?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we definitely went over there for the first time in 2007. We were supporting Hinder.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went back immediately. That was in March. We went back immediately that summer and did a big festival with Aerosmith. And then we went back that fall. So we went 3 times in 1 year, just really trying to take advantage of the market. And then we kept doing that consecutively, year after year. We would at least, you know, go twice a year at least, you know. And then it just kept building and building to where, you know, we were doing every tour was like the rooms were getting bigger and then bigger. And then we would do 2 nights here, and then Wembley Arena, and then we're headlining festivals. And it's like, wow, this is insane, you know. But also the rock and roll scene, you know, is still like the #1 thing over there. I mean, you know, I'm not one of those rock is dead guys that says that about in the US. You know, I believe rock is super alive right now, and that's awesome, you know. I'll never say that, but in the UK especially, and in Europe, it's like you can mention some country artist names or some hip hop artists, and they don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you not know Garth Brooks? You know what I mean? And they're like, dude, we don't know Garth Brooks, but we love Whitesnake, you know? And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
So that, and they still have TV shows that still play music videos over there. They have tons of magazines that still put out rock, you know, news that thankfully we get them as imports over here at different bookstores, but it still kind of reigns supreme over there. And I think that's helped a little bit too.
That's very cool. You know, and on that point, you know, you guys have shared the stage with everybody from Def Leppard to Whitesnake, Nickelback to Leonard Skinner and Bad Company. I mean, what band do you think taught you guys the most about the fickle ways of the rock music industry? Did you learn something especially cool from one particular artist that took you under their wings?
We probably learned, I would say, the most about the business from our drummer's dad's band is the Kentucky Headhunters, which is they're obviously not predominantly rock and roll. It's more country, Southern rock, but they also were able, I mean, those dudes won a Grammy in the 90s, and they would tour with Hank Jr. and all that stuff. So they were able to teach us a lot at an early age about the ins and outs of the business. Now, I will say, touring with Def Leppard, Leonard Skinner, and Alice Cooper at different times, those have been the ones that we have really learned the most from. About, number one, class, because all those bands are supreme upper class, and just not as people, you know what I mean? Yes, their career, but just the coolest dudes, and they've been able to give us a little bit of insight and just a little pat on the back, and some inspiration that you just can't ask for that kind of stuff from some of your idols like that. So it's been really cool.
Which one of those bands partied the hardest? I mean, if you're going to go back out on tour with one of them and say, "Oh man, I better make sure my liver is worked out for this."
They're all sober now. We didn't get to tour with them back in the 70s and 80s, when they were partying, but they're all kind of straightened up now, but they still rock, and they're just so awesome. But I would love to go back and party with like Leonard Skinner. That'd be.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I can hang now.
You mentioned John Fred Young, your drummer, one of the most impressive players I think I've ever seen live my entire life. Do you guys ever have to keep him from overshadowing the rest of the band, or does his energy just kind of help push you guys as players in the live setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what draws people to come see us, is that everybody has their own thing on stage, you know what I mean? And John Fred is a beast. So if we were to tell John Fred, "Hey man, calm down," which we would never do that, because it's just
he'd find another band. He'd go take Fred's place in Cowboy Mouth.
Yeah, we wouldn't want him to calm down. Then if we told him that, then you get fans going, "Man, why was John?" It's like me, if they'd said, "Hey man, don't jump around as much on stage." Everybody brings something unique to the show, and I think that's why people enjoy our live show. It's kind of like, it's like a rodeo, man. It's like a bull coming out of that gate. It's just, everybody's wide open, but
my guitar player and singer, he had a band called Black Sunshine, and they were actually on the road with you guys during the Avo era. And so we were talking a little while earlier ago, and I told him I was going to be doing this interview with you. And he said, well, ask Ben how in the hell he keeps his guitar on stage with as much jumping around as he does. Cause that dude's a man on stage. Are there any tricks of the trade there?
No, I really don't know. People have asked me.
Run into anyone?
I have run into, yes, and I've dented one of Chris's. Chris had got a beautiful new PRS guitar. This was a couple of years ago, and I was doing my thing, and he was singing. I turned around, and he turned at the same time, and my headstock just sliced his the body of his guitar. I felt terrible about it, but yeah, we've definitely bumped into each other several times, and it's kind of like, when you go up there, it's like a sporting event. It's like, hey, nobody has like a certain spot on stage. It's everybody's fair game up here. But I don't know. I do feel it after a long time of not playing. Then you go back out there, and like, we played a first show this past weekend in South Carolina, and we haven't played in months, And yesterday I was so sore, it was ridiculous. Like, my back was killing me, and I was like, I don't miss this,
Now, when you guys are going through the writing process, do you and Chris ever have disagreements on who's going to pick up the solo on this song, or who's going to pick up the solo on that song? Or is it just kind of, each other's working enough together that you jump in?
Yeah, I think we've played, because we're going on 20 years now that we've been playing music together. And it's like, I think we each know the other one's strong suits and weaknesses, if that makes sense. Obviously Chris is predominantly the lead guitar player, and he is a absolute beast and can outplay me any day of the week when it comes to lead guitar, so I want him to do all that stuff, but then he'll look at me and say, man, I want you to take the lead on a couple of these songs. So I got a couple, we try to divide them up, not evenly, but I'll at least get a few on every album. But it's like lives too. He's more comfortable. He's with the mic. He's holding it down. It's like, if I had to play leads all the time, I wouldn't be able to jump around. And I wouldn't like that, you know what I mean?
Totally.
But there's certain things, certain songs that call for a certain type of solo. We just kind of know, like, I'll say, Chris, that sounds more like you, or he'll look at me and say, I think this sounds something like you would do. And we divvy him up,
Yeah. Talking about Chris and growing up in Kentucky, hanging with the music royalty of the Kentucky Headhunters. Was music your primary hobby growing up as a kid? Unlike a lot of other teenagers who were into, hunting or fishing or playing in sports or this, that, and the other? Was music primarily your hobby? Did you guys always just hang out in a jam room and jam, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I was 15 when the band started, and Chris had just turned 16. We formed on his birthday,
Hmm.
and then we were all around that same age, 15 to 18 years old, 17 years old, and we just loved playing music. We didn't go out. None of us were extremely great athletes, even though we loved baseball and different stuff like that. But our main passion was music, even at a really, really early age. And that's what we did. Like every day after school, we would practice. On the weekends, we practiced. We weren't going out and partying and going to the movies and doing this and this. We were just dedicating ourselves to writing and practicing in this little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. How will business change for Blackstone Cherry permanently after, we kind of get into the shadow of the current pandemic, do you think?
You mean, how is it, like, since we've started, how have we seen it change, or?
Yeah, I mean, has anything new come around that that you think will never go back to the way it was pre-pandemic?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of things that I guess have been the most popular for music during the pandemic has been these live streams.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. It's a great outlet. You know what I mean? I hope that we don't treat that as the norm, because we did a live stream, and I've watched some of my favorite bands do their live streams, but nothing beats the feeling of being right there at the show. You know what I mean? So I hope we don't think, well, the live stream is the new norm for a long time. I don't even like saying new norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Nor do
live
I.
stream is, yeah. So, because nothing beats the feeling of going to a live concert, But I think that's a temporary thing until we can all get back out there fully. Other than that, as far as like from when we started, our first album came out in 2006 to now, I mean, I would say streaming is the main thing, where, you could still sell a few albums in 2006, Now it's about like, instead of how many albums has a band sold to compare status, it's like, what are the stream numbers, And it's something you really can't fight. You just kind of have to get used to it and use it to your advantage. I mean, streaming has helped us in ways that they've turned on new audience members to us. So, you can't be mad about it. You just got to kind of roll with it.
I was talking to the guys in Chevelle a few weeks back, and they caused a bit of a wave by saying that they really haven't made a whole lot of money over the span of their career on album sales.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah. Same boat with you guys, or were you guys structured as far as business in your contract differently so that it wasn't as tough of a mountain to climb?
Yeah, I think for anybody. I mean, I was just reading an article the other day with Pete Townsend. He was talking about a new Who album. And he was talking about him and Roger Daltrey that were going back and forth on a new album. And then he said, I guess, and don't quote me, but you have to look at the article. I think he said something like Roger had said, well, there's no money in albums anymore. And Pete was like, well, of course there's no money in albums. He said, who makes money on albums anymore? So even you got guys like the Who, right, that are understanding that, it costs money to record, even though people are finding ways to do it cheaper now, which is awesome. There's just no way to possibly recoup the expense of producing an album and putting it out there. The main revenue for bands, rock and roll bands especially, is just touring and merchandise.
Yeah.
That's how we survive. The album is now the tool to go out and tour.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the promotional vehicle to go out and have something to tour around for.
Exactly.
One last question. What's the best piece of advice for someone just starting out in the rock music industry with the way technology is nowadays? I mean, how do you go from unknown to becoming somewhat of a household name as far as brand and band awareness is concerned? If you're going to give some advice to somebody watching this,
I would say take full advantage of every technology app, whatever that's out there. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, there are superstars on TikTok right now that are probably, it's like, so take advantage of it, because that's stuff that we didn't have when we started. You know what I mean? We had MySpace. That was it. So that's all. So, but also don't be afraid to get out there and hustle, because if you use technology, you should use it to your advantage. But don't use it as a crutch, because I think there's something to be said for going out there and drawing up your own flyers, getting a bunch of copies made, and promoting a show that way. Word of mouth. Get out there and hustle. If there's one thing I don't like when bands say, well, we put it on Facebook, we had an event, nobody showed up. And I'm like, dude, like, you can't rely on that. You gotta get out there and sell show. Sell the show, you know what I mean?
And don't sign away your publishing.
Don't sign away your publishing, yes. Don't sign away your publishing, and don't look at the record, even though record deals are great, you shouldn't look at that being the end all for your career.
That's the starting point.
So many bands now are doing it, on their own, and they're getting more creative and figuring out ways to release music, and cutting out, not that the record label is always a middleman, because, you know, we love our record label, but we were able to sign a distribution deal with them. So our deal's a little different, where we could keep all of our creative rights, and they put it out, and they've been really great to work with. But I can't say that for every label, you know. We've seen some pretty rough ones out there too. So don't sign a 360 deal. Don't sign away your publishing rights. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Ben Wells, congrats again on The Human Condition. Blackstone Cherry, man. I can't wait to see you guys back out on the road, man. One of the coolest live bands out there. And fingers crossed it'll happen sometime this year, right? Hey, if they come calling, we're going to be there. All right, brother. Great to see you. Thanks so much for the time today. We'll talk soon. We'll see you out on the road. You too, man. Have a good one. All right. Take it easy. Bye-bye.